harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you is going to get real easy today with my guest, Kelly Flagg, calling in from Portland, Maine. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever in the world you guys are. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Beverly.
So, what does Miss Kelly do up there in the beautiful state of Maine where all the colors are changing now?
Yeah. Well, I work with women specifically, generally in the parenting phase, right? So women with kids who are between, let's just say maybe 8 and 18, and I help them find their way through what can be a super challenging time in their own personal health, what their own priorities are. I think that's a time in life where everything seems like it should be our priority, and things can get really, really messy and really overwhelming, and we can definitely feel like we're failing at all the things. And so I help women take control of the craziness, put some order to their priorities, and start to learn how to take care of all of the things in a way that is graceful and enjoyable.
Wow. Now that's a mouthful, but you know what? That is so true. And 2020 is definitely, you probably got your work cut out for you this year,
It's been a year. I was just to say, it's been a year.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yes.
it's interesting times we live in, and when you look at life in a whole, regardless of what age bracket you're in, it just changes. It changes so fast, and I think back, like when I was 8 years old, it's like, now that was a long time ago, and a really long time ago. But I grew up on a farm in the Midwest, and at 8 years old, it was like you never really knew what was in the big world,
Sure.
And I was fortunate because we drove to Montana every year. My dad's family was in Montana. So we got to see different parts of the country as we drove through and whatever. And a little bit of different arena because my cousins lived in a town. It's a little town, but hey, it was a town, right?
It was a town, right?
It was a town, yeah. It was a town. And, so life back then, and just to say this, it was in the 50s. Okay, that was a long time ago, is totally different living than it is today.
Sure is.
And when you look at the arena of information, right? The only time we got information other than what was in our environment and around the people that we were, involved with, you had to go get a book called an encyclopedia.
Sure thing.
Right? And
I grew up, I was one of the few houses in our town that had the full Encyclopedia Britannica that my father had bought for Christmas one year. So I know what you're saying.
Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy? I mean, that was our internet. And then like every 5 or 6 years, you had to get an update because it was outdated, So thank goodness we got Google, and you don't have to haul these books around, or you don't have to try to flip through them. You just Google what you want. Man, oh man, you get more information you could ever dream of. But then again, you kind of got to decipher through it. So you got pros and cons on both sides, right?
Sure thing, always.
Yeah. So when you're working with young ladies today, and now do you work with the mothers and the kids together, or do you kind of like separate them and then bring them together?
I primarily work with moms,
Okay.
and I help people. My passion came from, as most business women, I think, comes from a personal experience of my own.
Right.
Where I have always been an achiever. I have always been super competitive. And so, prior to being a mom, I was a business owner. I owned multiple businesses. I was a relatively competitive athlete. And then boom, I had a baby. And I just remember the whole world changing. And then of course,
yeah, it can cause that.
The older that child gets, the more your world changes and the more they need and the more you have to try to navigate how to maintain friendships and relationships and your romantic relationship and your business or your job. And, I got to a place where I just realized I personally needed a change from what I was doing. And that led to, I've always been a teacher, trainer, coach in many different realms. I have a degree in sports medicine and health and wellness. And I just was like, I think that this is what I need to do. I think I need to help people through this phase of life because it can be really scary and it can be really challenging. So I primarily work with the moms, most of the time telling them they're doing a better job than they're giving themselves credit for. But helping them make themselves a priority, because I think when women can learn to take a little bit of time to take care of their own needs before they start to serve their families and their jobs and their other commitments, that they can show up in a stronger, more calm, often more joyful way. And that makes everything else easier. And so that's always my number one goal with women, is to find where can we start to shift some priorities to take care of their own health, whether that's mental health, physical health. It's different for each person, but where can we really give you a little bit of focus on yourself so that when you go forward into the world of your family and your job, you're more prepared for it.
I think that's really relevant and key what you said. It's taking care of the self first, right? Because if your cup's not full, you can't
give. Nothing to share.
Yeah, that's right. You can only share. You can only share out of yourself what you've shared in yourself, and it's so true. And especially in the world as it keeps on getting bigger and growing faster and faster, and so much more stuff going on all the time. I kind of look at this 2020 year as being the year of new beginnings.
It's true.
Where we've been put on hold, right? To say, hey, let's just stop the world. I mean, how many times has that statement been, stop the world and let me off, right?
Yeah.
My world's still going around here.
Yeah. For the last 7 months, the world has been stopped. This is your chance.
Well, it really, it is. It truly is. And I believe that, it's an opportunity, because now we've been forced to take that time, upon yourself. And like you said too, you got kids and they can definitely test your patience and a few other things, right?
Yes.
Depending on that age bracket and
your energy, frankly.
Oh,
I mean, if you have multiple children and they are involved in multiple activities, of course you always want the best for them, but that can really run a family quite ragged. And it's not a bad thing that they're involved in so much, but it can be very challenging if you are also a professional, if you also need to, find time to exercise and eat and sleep and you
got to do those things?
How are you going to do this? I remember actually, so my son is an athlete. He's a multi-sport athlete. And I remember one day being at the football field and he was at practice. So he was safe with his coach, but he was too young to just sort of drop him off and leave, right? when they're at that age where you kind of need to hover just in case they have a breakdown of some sort. And so I was walking around the outside of the football field, listening to a podcast while he was at practice. And one of the other moms was like, how are you so motivated? And I was like, no, you don't understand. When I looked at my schedule today, this was literally the only 1 hour that I had the opportunity to take care of my body and my brain. And so why not? I could sit here and just waste this hour sitting here hovering,
right? Or
I could be in motion and listening to the things that I need to grow. And for me, it was a win-win. And the other piece of that is that we teach our kids by what we do, right? And so
yes.
Now my son sees his mom taking care of herself. He's not missing anything. He's busy. But when he looks over, he sees his mom taking care of herself, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you know, and I think you're right on with that, because if we waste that time, we don't get it back, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. And for a child, you know, at any age, especially a younger age, you know, they know mom's still there, so it's like, okay, mom didn't desert me, she didn't leave me, she's there, but oh, she's doing her thing, so now I can do my thing, and we can do our things together, so to speak. It really sends a powerful message, and to be able to get that connection, because if you were just sitting there, and you'd be, you know where our brains go off into the worry, and
what if he's doing okay, like this.
And yeah, that too, yeah, right, and you know, so it is good, and that's one thing that we do forget as moms, especially, to really take care of ourselves, because we are the givers, the nurturers, and we forget to receive that. So that really is relevant. And you know, when the children are younger, and they're, you know, at that age of reasoning, which is 6, 7, or 8, you know, now they're taking everything that they learned, and now they're trying to make some sense of it and putting it, you know, into what their structure and their belief is, and what they feel that they want to start doing, because now they're starting to, you know, build their own dreams and their own fantasies, right?
Yep, they're starting to get their own thoughts and their own plans and their own ideas, which is exciting.
Yeah, and to be able to really understand that, and to work with them and say, wow, and share. I think that was one of the greatest things, that looking back in different time periods and watching, you know, not only my children go up, but, you know, my grandchildren. I got great grandchildren, which is really awesome, you know, and to go back and watch what my life did. And we got a big family. There's 11 of us, okay?
Oh boy,
and so I got nieces and nephews all over the place, you know. And so to be able to watch each generation and the level in that generation, and how you communicate with them, and how they communicate differently, and how they can have a voice. I know when I was growing up, you know, you didn't really speak what you wanted to speak. You were very limited, and you were shut down. Right?
Yeah, it was a different time.
It was. And to be able to watch that, and to be a part of that opening and that line of communication. And I think that's relevant right now. And so what you're doing is a beautiful thing, to be able to help parents understand communicating with a child, not baby talk. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's they're little adults, and they have so much to share, because they see things without the filters.
Yeah.
They can express without the filters, right? So they can really teach us as adults a lot.
Oh, my son teaches me all the time, and it's interesting, because when I first I didn't start this particular journey until the end of 2016. Before that, I was in full-on achiever, not that I'm not now, but full-on achiever and people pleaser mode is what I like to call it. You know, I had taken, his father and I are divorced, so I had taken a corporate position, which is, you know, what you need to do sometimes to pay your bills.
Exactly.
And I had this fabulous job, but it was a very demanding job. And my son was about 6. And there was a day where I distinctly remember thinking, he needs me more than this scenario is allowing me to give him. The job paid well, had great benefits, took care of us financially very, very well. But he was at daycare, and then, you know, I remember one day just thinking, this poor child is transitioning from home to childcare at 6 o'clock in the morning, transitioning to a bus at 8, transitioning from a bus to school at 9. He's at school all day long, and then he does the reverse in the afternoon. I'm expecting a 6-year-old to manage a 12-hour day.
Right.
Like, most adults can't manage this. Most adults cannot and should not manage a 12-hour day of transitions in that way. And it really struck me like I have to change something. And so I did. And fast forward a couple of years, we were sitting in the car, and I remember having this discussion with him where he said to me, you know, Mom, like, you're kind of never mad. And that to me was like the greatest observation that he ever could have just randomly come up with. Mm-hmm. Because it isn't that our life is without stress. It isn't that I don't reprimand him and that we don't have conversations and that I'm not raising him with discipline. It's simply that, like you said, I'm communicating with him in a way that he doesn't feel anxious about.
Right.
You know, like, oh, I do get mad, but I'm feeding myself. I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking care of my family. And that allows us to all communicate in a way that is, that's good for everybody. And ideally that will translate into him learning how to communicate that way himself as he becomes an adult, right?
Well, that way of communication is really important, you know. So like when you say you get angry or you get mad, right? When you raise that tone of voice and you start getting aggressive,
yeah,
the brain shuts down, right? The person that's on the receiving end shuts down. So the message that you want to get across is floating out here somewhere in space.
We call it the door closed, right? You just close the door.
Oh gosh,
Nobody is working in the prefrontal cortex when the door is closed. You are stuck in the basement of communication.
Right. Oh my gosh. You know, my kids, oh God. When they got in trouble, they knew they were in trouble. It's like, all right, to the table, sit down. And they're like, oh no, not again. Not the talk, Mom, not the talk, please. Can you just send me to my room, you know?
I actually have now started, when there's something going on, is saying we don't have to talk about it right now, because I understand that you're gonna have an emotional reaction to this. So I usually say I'm gonna talk right now, and then we're gonna take a little break, and then we're gonna talk again, right? Like I need you to hear what I need to say, but you don't have to respond right now, because I know that whatever's gonna come back is not gonna be probably what you want to say or productive for either one of us.
You know, and that's a great option to be able to give them, you know.
Yeah, it's okay. You're going to be emotional. Like, it's normal. I don't want you to not have your emotions, but I don't want to have a conversation until you've had time to mull through.
Right. I'm going to give you food for thought, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I did that with my kids as well, you know, and they would sit there and it's like, all right, so you'll think about it, you know, and when you want to talk, you know where I'm at, right? You know, and you kind of have that agreement.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them a different perspective and you're guiding them. And when you're not being yelled at and being told what to do and finger pointed and the whole enchilada, they learn, because now that reasoning comes into play and it's like, okay, let's see, I had this on this side and my friends were saying this and doing that. And then I saw this in a movie, you know, so they're bringing all their database together.
All the pieces.
and then they have to look at, well, maybe what Mom said's not so bad after all. So let's see, how can I put it together and make some sense out of it? Which is where you really need them. And that teaches them also that database can change.
Sure can.
Right.
Sure can. It's changing all the time.
Oh my gosh. When we look at life, you know, and the habits that we have and our automatic responses, and what are we living off of? Are we living off of something that happened when we were 5 years old? I mean, my goodness, I can look back on my childhood, right? And that's 70 years long. So there's a lot of spots I can check out, right? And how my response was then, the database of information I had at that point in my life, and then how major aha moments and things shifted, you know, periodically in different segments, and how that database of truth was no longer truth.
Right.
And how you
well,
have
and
to
if you
shift
think
with
of
that.
it, it's just like I've heard it described as, you know, when you're born with this completely clear, very uncorrupt computer code, right? You are just pure you. And then over time, right, all these experiences and all of these thoughts and all of these things corrupt your computer code.
And then you got to try to figure it out. Where the heck is that under all this crap?
Right. Where is this belief coming from, or where is this reaction coming from? And to your point, we also have the ability to change that over time, right? Yes. We can undo that. We can rewrite those parts of our code. And so for me, being able to specifically help moms do that for themselves, because I think if we want to affect children, we have to first affect their parents, because kids learn from their parents. They learn from their experiences. And so anytime that I have the ability to affect the happiness of a family by affecting the mom and the health and the happiness of the mom, I just think that's such a powerful thing, because and especially right now where families are,
oh my gosh, I mean, we're so inundated with just having to be around the same people all the time. It's a closed arena. It's like, there's only so much you can do. There's only so many shows you can watch, and there's just so many games you can play, and there's just, you really have to get creative and resourceful and, be able to break out of the mold of what it is, and look for other opportunities and not get caught up in the world of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? And there's a lot of fear out there. I mean, fear's been around like forever, and that's kind of what what we're taught, because fear is taught. You're not born with it, as you mentioned, right? So when you look at life and what's happening and the changes, and oh my gosh, the drastic things that are happening now, because there is no communication, there's nothing but that people not knowing what to do, and so that increase of violence, that response, because it's like you're in prison. It's like you've been caged, right? Yes. And you want to get free.
Yes.
And, it all starts in here. If you're not comfortable in your own skin, you're not going to be comfortable in your environment, right?
No, and this is a time where I think that that's become even more important for people is, the outside stimulus that told us we were okay is gone. And now, even more than ever, we need internally to know that we're okay. Right. And that's an inside job.
It is an inside job. That's right.
And it's a tough one for people. And I think a lot of times people just simply need a little bit of a roadmap for how to accomplish that, because one of the other things that I think is real in our society is that unless we have been a person who sought that kind of counsel, I've always been a learner. I've always been it's funny. I remember as a kid, my dad having next to the Encyclopedia Britannica, he had a wide variety of self-help books, which was unusual for a man at that time, right? That was very incredibly unusual. I was a young child. But I have always been in search of how can I grow? How can I learn to be better? How can I be calmer? How can I give more? Like, how can I communicate better? That's just been who I am. But I'm also aware, because I live in the world with other people, that not everyone has lived that life. So when they come to the place where they're ready to make a change, where they recognize that this inside job needs to happen, they haven't read the hundreds and thousands of books that I have, right? They don't have that automatic, I know how to do this.
Right.
And so that's where I come in, is just to sort of help people put together the pieces of what is this feeling, first of all.
Right.
Because it exhibits itself in a whole lot of different ways, right?
You nailed that one. It sure does. And again, sometimes we don't really even understand what that is. It's okay to feel. I mean, we've kind of been taught, not to have feelings, just put it aside, suck it up, all these different comments and whatever. But it's okay to feel the pain, because if you don't feel the pain, to recognize the pain, then you're not going to be able to just like surrender to it, because it's there kind of just growing and doing its own thing behind the scenes. And
if we can accept that pain exists to tell us something,
yes,
that there is a message for us in that pain, whether that is physical pain, whether that's emotional pain, whether it's weight gain, whether it's, you know, some strange issue with your skin, you know, I'm sort of relating this back to your physical health, but any pain, regardless of whether it is physical or emotional, is there to tell us something. And when we push it aside, that's like saying,
it's denial, right?
I don't want to look at that. Well, really, if we open it like it's a gift and we really take a look at it, then we can figure out, how do we fix it? How do we move past it? And we don't even always have to fix it. Sometimes we just have to sit with it and accept that it exists. But you know, what do we do with it?
Right.
What do we do? I like to open the box. I like to take it out. I like to play with it. I like to look at it and say, what is this? Why am I feeling like this?
Yeah. You know, and that's very relevant to what you're saying. And that's part of that communication with the self, right?
Yeah.
So you can either deny the self, or you can say, okay, what are we going to do here? And you mentioned something earlier in this conversation, change. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, if a person isn't ready for change, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen with or without you, because it's the only constant that's going,
correct,
right? But again, it's like, what do we do? You know, I don't like the way the world is right now. I don't like the way the world is changing. I don't like these things. I don't. Okay, now that you've, you know, acknowledged that you don't, what about your do's, right? Let's take a look at those, because it's different, you know. And someone said on my show, I did a show with a friend of mine, and we always kind of connect, and it's like, okay, what are we going to throw out today? So we decided we'd start with doubt and confidence, doing, you know, the pain point to the opposite, and just use those two words. Well, a statement came up during that conversation, and I've never forgotten this. It's so impactful. Surrender to the circumstances.
Yeah.
So when you surrender to the circumstance, meaning that, okay, I am going to recognize what this circumstance is. Can I change it? If I can, let me figure out the way to do it. But if it's beyond my ability to change that circumstance, now I can either learn to live with it, go over it, under it, around it, through it, to be able to live, you know, not letting the circumstance rule me or delegate who I am, but be able to go beyond the circumstance. I can't change it, but I don't have to be of it. Right?
Yes,
I'm in it, but I don't
true.
have to be of it. You know, so when you start doing that, and I want to, you know, make known too that surrender is definitely not giving up. Because when you surrender, the inner conflict, because we have all that inner conflict going on, and that's what that pain message is. It's trying to slap you around, and there's a,
some
you're not
sort of
listening
conflict.
to me, right? Wake up here, pay attention.
Yes.
Right? And so when you do pay attention to what those messages are, then you can take control of the situation. You can be in charge of what your outcome is going to be. You don't have to be the automatic pilot and repeat it.
It's so true, Beverly. It's so true. And I think when you think about the things that are happening in the world right now, I mean, I will be the first to say, I closed a physical space in March of this year. I was not without consequence from the things that are happening in the world right now. I had a studio where I met people in person on a daily basis, and one day I did, and one day I didn't.
Right.
And I made a decision very quickly. That's one of the other things, is that I think sometimes when we can accept the circumstance, I remember going through this thought process for myself and saying, here's the circumstance. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. These are the things we don't know. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know how severe it's going to be. We don't know when it's going to affect our geographic area. Our state was basically, our whole country was shut down.
Right.
I basically just said, what are the things I can control? And what I can control is just making the decision now not to be a victim of what happens over the next period of time. And I just made a decision very quickly that I didn't want to wait for that.
Right.
And so I pivoted right away. And I feel like that kind of thought process is one of the things that I try to help people with. Not that it's always right to quote unquote jump ship, but to be able to observe all, like you said, what are the things that I can control? What are the things that I can't control?
Right.
What is okay with me? What is not okay with me? And how is the best way for me to proceed forward? And for me, most of that comes from time I've spent in nature. I love hiking, rock climbing.
So do I,
adventure, yes. Right? And anytime you're in a situation like that, if you're halfway up a mountain and the weather rolls in, you have to do that, right? Like, what do I have for tools? Am I going to proceed forward? Is it safe to proceed forward? Am I going to hunker down for a day? Do I have all the things I need to hunker down for a day? Or am I going to retreat back to the car, right? Like, what am I doing? And I think life is like that. That is what life is about, really.
Well, and that's an instant, spontaneous, not crazy, do something and think later. But again, you get in that habit and you start to respond. Okay, so this is the situation. Instead of fighting the circumstance, mm-hmm. right? It's that surrender. You surrender to the circumstances. Okay, the weather come in. I can't control the weather yet. So it's like, okay, so I'm not going to allow the weather to put me down, to take me out. So what is it that I can do? And you automatically go through that checklist, bing, 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 bing. And when we train ourselves for that, we don't panic.
No, it creates resilience.
Yes, and so to be able to do that is great. And once you're in nature, it's like I tell my clients as well, when things get to be so overwhelming, just go out in nature. Nature is the perfect balance and harmony. And everything in nature has a message. I'm really strong on that, Just go in your backyard, if nothing else. Use your mind. Take a deep breath. Walk around the backyard, Kick the toys out of the way. Whatever you need to do.
Whatever you need to do.
Right? But just kind of pretend that, wow, you are out in this meadow. Right, there's a little creek going by, and just really feel nature, feel the wind, right? Look at the sun, look at the stars, whatever it is, and really start to unite with nature because it brings you back into a harmony that is, it's hard to describe. And what happens? Did a bird fly by? Did you hear something, a sound? What's the message of that sound? Really start to pay attention to the world around you because it gives you answers like there's no tomorrow.
It gives you a lot more answers than looking at the computer screen.
Oh my goodness. It does. I mean, okay, so Google this and Google that. That's one thing. But when you can really be in nature and pay attention to what those signs are to trigger that inner knowing, because we all have an inner knowing. More than just the database we've accumulated, from days being on the planet. We have a divine intelligence that we can, tap into, right? Whatever you want to call it. And
sure.
You bring in that spiritual outside of the arena and start paying attention to your intuition. What's the world telling you? What's your inner truth? And really start to develop with that. And 2020 has given us an opportunity. We've heard this word, awakening, 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 for the last, 3-4 decades, right?
Forever.
And yeah, just about. So I think when I first started really hearing about the awakening, it was in the 90s. And it just got to get, more prevalent as the years went by. To me, I think the day they said, okay, everybody's at home, lock your door, you can't go anywhere. I mean, it's so strange because it was the whole world. It wasn't just a little segment where you were, it was the whole world.
It wasn't just my street.
No.
It was everyone.
It was crazy, and it went that fast, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, whoa, now that's an awakening. If that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. But well, like you said, getting resilient is what you're going to do.
It's also highlighted that it's interesting because we talk about how, you'll hear a lot in the news or the media right now about people struggling with mental health during this time. And I don't necessarily think that, in my observation, that people's mental health right now is worse than it was before. I think we've removed the distractions.
I agree. That is
one of our
so
ways,
well said.
One of our ways of handling distress has been distraction, has been to, and I'm going to say run away, but I don't even.
That's what's going in my head. I'm thinking, run away. Yep, we're running away. Yeah. We're running away.
To move, to go do something, to go, to go out, to spend money, to go shopping, to go travel, to whatever it is.
And I'm not to change the thought, change the feeling.
To just get away from it. To get away from it. I'm not thinking about this.
Yes.
And one of the things that's happening right now is it's forcing us to sit with our discomfort. And it's forcing people to come up with other ways to handle their discomfort. And so it's highlighting an issue that existed before. And I'll tell you, one of my own personal things is that I walk every day outside for at least an hour, no matter what the weather. That's just one of the things that for me has been right from the very beginning. I said, I am a person who I enjoy a change of scenery. I enjoy traveling. If I'm not able to travel, I need to, at very minimum, be outside. And if that means I need an extra jacket or a pair of gloves or a hat or goggles if it's raining sideways, so be it. That is my change of scenery for the day. But it gives you a break. It gives you a mental break. Like you were saying, observing the birds, observing the sun, observe the wind. It doesn't have to be a positive observation. Just be in a different space to give yourself that time to sort of step away from what's happening within your home, because we are trying to do something quite different than what we've done before, which is we're face to face with our families and our spouses and our children. And we're in this very small, very tight situation where our communities have gotten very small. Our communities have shrunk. And, we need to do our part to stay positive.
We do. That is so true. And that's, it makes me think, some of the other stuff that I'm doing. I had mentioned before we started the show that my partner and I, we opened up a business in virtual reality. And virtual reality it's a world of avatars. So a lot of people think, these little cartoon characters jumping around, and it's a game and everything. Well, it's not. And it's something that's been around for a long time. It's just that we're not familiar with it. And with everything being digital, everything being, Zoomed and webinared and, everything else. And now we have what they're calling Zoom fatigue. And that comes from all the static. You and I are on a Zoom right now, but there's two of us. So there's not a lot of static. But when you start adding more people, you're picking up static, and the brain will shut down and get exhausted from the static. Well, working in the virtual reality world is what we've done is we've taken that gaming platform, removed the game, and turned it into business, education, and entertainment. And so we started Digital Business International as like a chamber or a BNI type of group where we're connecting people, but we wanted to do it globally. Right? And we didn't want to have all these strong rules and regulations kind of make it neutral ground. And so we just kind of opened it that way to bring people in to have that connection. And then pandemic hit, right? Well, we continued with what we were doing, but it's like, okay, now we've got a group of people in here. What can we do to interact? Because we have a group, over here in the UK. We got one in South Africa. We got some in Canada. We got some in the US. It's like, but everybody is everywhere else. So what if we would bring together a vendor show, right? And have tables where people come in, meet each other. What do you do? Here's your business. And just really start to connect that way, because that's how we connect in the world, right?
That is how we connect in the world.
And so we started doing that. And we did one-day events, and we had speakers. You get on the stage and everything. Well, currently what we did is we started one October 1st that's going to actually run from the Fall Fest and then go directly into the Holiday Fest, but give people an opportunity to have what they do, their businesses, to come onto this platform. And why the virtual reality platform is the avatar that we, help you get and, put together looks like a person. We can actually make it look like you if you want to go that far, but it dresses like a human, it walks and talks like a human. It's not this crazy creature, half-bodied or anything like that, a character face.
Not what you might think of from the movie.
Right. But it's real, and the platform we use has the best graphics and the best colors so that you don't get the headaches or dizziness, and the eye strain from being on that platform, and you don't have to have the Oculus glasses to be able to be on that platform. But the cool thing about it is we are still in our own little pens here, so to speak, on Zoom. You're in your square and I'm in my square. So when you're in the platform in virtual reality, you're in your avatar body and so is the other person, but everyone is looking at the same environment. Whatever that environment may be, whether it's down by the beach, whether it's climbing a mountain, whether it's right there in the convention center, walking around tables, whether you're standing out there in the front lawn, watching someone up here on the main stage give a talk. Everyone is looking at the same thing. You're standing side by side. There's no social distancing. There's no masking. You can turn to that person next to you and you can start a conversation. And the mind says, there's somebody right here.
Yeah.
And so the difference is amazing, and it brings people back together. And that's kind of what we were looking to do. And we really need it now more than ever.
I think we do. Yeah, we do.
And the holiday seasons are what? This is, it's sad, but we take those holiday seasons of where we bring families connected together. What's going to happen this year? We don't know. And so with the environment of being in the virtual reality, we can actually have this like a whole Halloween thing where the kids can go trick-or-treating and they can go to a scary house and they can do all these things in the virtual reality. We can have Thanksgiving. We can have a big festival, and where you can have the turkey and you can have the mashed potatoes, you can have the pie, you can have everybody, there talking. When everyone can be in their own home having their meals and stuff, yet be on the screen, because you can put it up on your big screen TV, right? And everyone is sitting there and they're interacting with other family members. Everybody's in their avatar, but you're talking and laughing and sharing. Yeah. Right? And we've actually got it figured out how you can take your avatar into the outside world. So you could take your avatar into someone else's living room, right? And watch them open presents. Or you can take your living room and bring it right there into the platform, and everybody can watch. Okay, let's watch the kids open up their presents, right? And everybody's watching. They're seeing them in real life in their living room opening up the presents, right? Okay, now you're done. Boom, let's go to the next family. Let's go to the next one. How cool is that?
I think it'll be interesting to see how much more we crave that connection as we continue to be segregated in the way that we are.
Right.
I think whether it's just being able to be sipping a glass of wine with a friend, whether it's holidays with your family, I think you have nailed something, Beverly, in the sense that when you and I are the two people on a Zoom, there's not a lot of static. We're talking. Right. I'm talking, you're talking, we're having a conversation. It's not significantly different than if we were at coffee.
Right.
But when you start to get into a meeting type situation or a family type situation, there's a lot of physical
there's a lot of
physical stress that comes with that scenario. And this platform wasn't meant for us to live on, right? It's a platform I've used for meetings for years and years and years.
Right.
But I don't think we were meant to be on it 12 hours a day.
No.
Thank God for it right now. But
Yes.
I think you're onto something that there is another level.
We're looking at schools, and students, right? Well, there's no control over this. I mean, if a student shuts their voice off and they shut their picture off, the teacher has no whatever. But these kids understand the static. They have technology in their blood. It's in their DNA.
Oh, trust me, I know.
and what we've done on the platform, by bringing students into a classroom setting, because we have desks set up, with the computers on, everything. The teacher's in there. Parents can walk in and out whenever they want to check on the students. The teacher will know if the student has left the avatar, and they have a way to connect with the parents. Zoom, you do not, but they're going to want to stay there because they're immersed. So, depending on what age bracket. So let's just say you're down around the 7, 8, 9-year-olds, right? And you're in a discussion about, let's just say dinosaurs, right? And so today we're going to talk about T-Rex. So we talk all about T-Rex, and the kids interact in the whole enchilada, and they talk about it and they ask questions. So they're involved in that. And it's like, okay, now that we have T-Rex, who wants to go see T-Rex? Woo! Right? And so basically you throw up a little portal because they're into that. So you throw up this little portal, and all the kids run through it, and they come out the other side, and here we are in the environment of T-Rex. Now they have a quest system, so we have like this little test. So everybody has to stand here, right? And everybody clicks on it, what is the environment for T-Rex? And then they have to, click which one. And the teacher will know, whether it took them 1, 2, or 3 clicks to get the right answer. So were they really paying attention? But they're immersed. They learn so much faster because it's a different way.
Really great way for kids to be learning right now. Yeah,
but now you take them through that environment. Now they're out there and they're walking through the swamps and everything, and all of a sudden they come over this hill. Oh my gosh, there's T-Rex and he's in the water. And then all of a sudden little baby T-Rex runs by, and you, in your little avatar form, can do what? You can jump on top of T-Rex and go for a ride. All of these things. You don't think they're not going to remember about T-Rex?
Right.
So it doesn't matter what maybe you're in a Victorian time, maybe you're in Egypt, and you can actually take them on a tour into that time and space and get that feeling. Right? So that's the difference in the different ways of learning. And with special needs kids now, and we know that there's more and more of that. And there's more, but I think there was more of this than what we really recognized.
We'll just go with it. It's more diagnosed and
exactly. Yeah. But we learn in different ways. I mean, my gosh, okay, you go back to when I was learning, the way I was learning in school, and you had to sit there and you were hammered with it. They're doing the same thing today. We didn't learn it back then. We're not learning it today.
They're not learning it now. No.
And so it's learning, and again, it's training the teachers, right? Is to how to get that across. How do we learn when you bring all the senses into it? So we've had schools actually looking, at what we're doing, with different grade levels and stuff. And you can go all the way up to high school to colleges and stuff, So it's not just for little ones. It's for every age bracket.
Well, I think this speaks to what we were talking about with resilience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the world is changing around us faster than we obviously than we ever expected.
That's an understatement.
We don't exactly know what the future looks like, right? Are we going to be in this scenario for a couple months, for a year, for a couple years? Like, we don't know.
We don't know. We have, like you say, we have no
clue. None of us have ever been through this before.
Yeah.
And so I just think this is a time where there's opportunity for people who are creative. And I think that's one of the other things when you think about what I do and mindset work and health work, that one of the things I always try to work with people to help them understand is that when we can remove ourselves from a victim mindset and recognize that the world is happening around us, that it's not happening to us, it's happening around us, and that we can choose how we interact in that world. We can choose to sit here and wait for things to go back to the way they were,
which they never will.
They're never going to. Yeah. So many things have changed in the last 7 months that even when the pandemic is long gone, we are never going to interact with each other the way we did before 7 months ago. We just are not.
No, and that's a reality that I think we really have to face, and then to be able to get that interaction back. It's going to be a very slow process, because the fear has been so embedded right now. Regardless, that thought is always going to be there, so we're going to really have to work on mindset. So when we look at businesses, in a business like yourself, to be able to teach that. So let's just say, that you take what you have and you move that into the environment of the platform, and you have your clients all there in a comfortable setting, whether it's around a boardroom table, whether it's sitting out on the lawn, or you're just in an auditorium, whatever that may be, and you're able to start teaching people what that mindset looks like and it's all about, but being able to have the synergism in a classroom and the interaction, because the more you can interact in that platform and get over the fears and different things, you're going to find that when you do walk out into the world again, when the doors open, you're not going to have the anxiety. The mental health institutions have been using virtual reality for, several decades, and really a lot in the last 5-6 years to work around anxieties and phobias and fears, PTSDs, and all these different, mental disruptions, and have helped people learn how to interact and overcome that, so that when they do go out in the world, the whole thing, their whole mindset, their whole physiology has shifted, so that they can start to interact. And I think this is where it's really critical for the special needs kids here in the world today, is to how do we reprogram and restructure the neurotransmitters, right? Where do we send the messages? What messages do we need to eliminate and replace and rewire? And it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what your situation is. It matters that we begin to really recognize, the age we are in is a miraculous shift.
It is.
To the whole humanity of the world. And what's happening right here in the Zooms, in the virtual realities, in the webinars, in all this digital communication, the world has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And what you're saying is so powerful. So I'm part of business networking groups, right? And business networking groups have done the best they can to move to a Zoom platform. And I see, just even in my own experience, the things you're talking about, where because we're not in a platform like what you're describing, because we are sitting on a Zoom and we are patiently waiting for our turn to talk and hope that people are listening to us, not they're letting their dog out to go pee, or helping their kid with schoolwork while they're on this business Zoom. Like, we are not interacting with each other in the same way.
No, everyone is in that little square doing their own little thing, with a whole bunch of people doing their own little thing.
And I think in some senses we are, I don't want to call it pretending to show up, but like, this is one of the things for myself. I've even had to sort of, at the beginning, I am part of a BNI group. And in the beginning, I was like, okay, I need to check myself. I need to be in a quiet space. I need to be able to pay attention to what people are saying. I can't have people coming in and out of the door and the dog walking behind me and the coffee going. But then you know that there are so many things and so many distractions going on that, like you said, that vibration is different. You and I are having a back and forth conversation. We are connecting. But in that environment, you just can't.
No, it takes discipline. It takes discipline and commitment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether you're on a Zoom or if you're in the virtual reality platform. You still need to have that environment. It helps you create that environment because of the scenery that you're moving into.
Well, I was going to say, the virtual reality seems as though it would help you when you walk into a room full of people.
Right.
You are in a room full of people.
And everybody, that's exactly right. Everybody sees the same room.
And everybody sees
the same people.
Yes.
Right? So it shifts something in the brain, like, oh shoot, I gotta buckle down here. All right, we got a meeting. Okay, what's this all about, right? And you can throw up a PowerPoint if you need to. You can run a video in there if you need to. You can have, like, if you're doing a mastermind, you can have somebody in that hot seat, and everyone's there. But you're so immersed in it that you don't have to have a reality check that you're sitting in front of your computer, because what's really cool is you're sitting here and you're having this conversation and somebody, at the other end of the table says something and maybe you didn't quite catch the whole thing. You're going to find yourself talking to the person next to you, right? The little avatar here. This is what you're going to do. Seriously, this is what you're going to do in front of your computer. You're going to go, hey, what did they say? I swear to God. The first time you do that, and you're looking over here and you're looking at, the empty space in your office or wherever it is you are. Hey, what is it? It's like, oh my God, they're over there on the screen. That tells you that the mind has said you are here with your fellow, participants, and you're there 100%. That's the difference. You will never get that on a Zoom. No. You just won't. Right? Oh my gosh, we could go on forever and ever and ever.
I think we could. I feel like we have lots to talk about.
Well, we're coming up on an hour here. Can you believe it?
My goodness.
I know. But it was a beautiful conversation here today. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll just have to get you back, right?
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to talk with other people with similar mindsets who understand where I'm coming from and who also recognize the need for what I do. It's a time right now where I think both you and I
so needed
are offering things that the world needs. So
if people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Sure. So I can be found online at kellyflagg.com, and that's with 2 G's.
2 G's.
Everybody.
She's a double flag, gay, right?
Double G. Yep. And then I'm also on both Facebook and Instagram at Kelly Flagg Lifestyle. Okay. So they can connect with me in any of those ways, or even just email me, kelly@kellyflagg.com.
Well, that's pretty simple. Kelly Flagg, Kelly Flagg, Kelly Flagg with 2 G's. With 2 G's. And no E in the Y. KELLYFLAGG.
You got it.
Well, Kelly, thank you again so much for being here. Now it's time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be, because Kelly and I are going to be the best we that we can be. We'll see you all on another show.